can see us now.
Yeah.
No,
Well, that's what I was waiting for, and then all of a sudden we're going into the music.
I'm just making sure my soundboard was working. Okay, tweeted, retweeted. Logging back into Discord. Hi, Matt. What's up? This is the wrong patron. Oh, hello, Donkey fans.
Yes.
I don't like that sentence. I don't like that. It's, hello, friends of Donkey.
I mean, what is the, you know, Donkey must have some sort of a good name for, you know, his chat, I'm sure. But
I am certain there is something, but I don't know what it is.
I don't want to guess it. I'm probably going to offend people if I try. So
it's Donkey
it's good
lovers,
to see you.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah.
All right, here. We're good. Did either of you watch much of the DK show match, by the way?
Some of it, like in between meetings, as usual.
Okay.
But
yeah, I watched very minimal. Caught a little bit here and there.
Okay, like I was working both the times, so like I caught a little bit, but I mostly just scrubbed through and watched clips of cool Frost Lethals and then also Denethris. So like, but yeah,
There was a lot of that.
Yeah, but it became like it's also super warped as far as metas go because it's you know, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
What's up, Bex?
Yeah.
I
think I got into it like too late in the day because like they had been done like explaining what the cards do, and I was like too tired to try to remember or like look up what the cards were. So I was just kind of like, okay, things are happening. Cool. Like it was kind of lost on me at that point. Like after my 16th meeting of the day, I wasn't retaining information about cards that I haven't played with yet.
We do have a note on the balance window. I'll go get a screenshot of Aleko's tweets.
Oh yeah, that's
because
that's going to be discourse.
Yes. Yeah, there's going to be some of that.
The production level looked great, though. I mean, they did a really good job with the actual production. The tournament rules made no sense, no matter how many times they tried to explain it while it was going on. But you know.
Well, it's like I don't know. Actually. Do I care? I don't think I do.
Well, that's because you're not the one winning the money.
Well, but like I assume that if you're a competitor, your goal is to win the most games and lose the least games.
Right.
But also you have to win like the right games, the ones where you bet all the points or whatever, because that was a thing at the end.
There's points betting?
Yeah, at the end,
yes.
Yeah.
That part was a little confusing.
Yeah, one team bet 69 points at the end to win.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it made one team end with 1 point. So like when they showed the final standings, there's like one team with 120 and one team with 1. So it looked very unbalanced, whereas that wasn't necessarily the case.
I mean, they weren't that far away from 1 over the course of the day, but it wasn't actually 1. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
I am going to ask more about this later, and so I hope one of you understands it.
I think between the two of us, we could try to piece it together, I think.
Yeah.
Also, anticipate a question from me about why this was included in the tournament. I'm not saying you have to have an answer. I'm just saying anticipate that question because it's going to be asked. And if the answer is I don't know,
no answer for you. Yeah. I have no good answer for you about that because, like,
in my day,
it was very weird.
Back in my day, when you wanted to win a tournament, you just won the most games and then also lost the least, and then you just kept doing that for a while. Yeah.
Well, I mean, apparently, in this tournament, you needed to snap at the right time.
See, I thought they wanted to avoid the comparison of doubling your points at the end to risk more, but I guess they're just, like, fully leaning into it.
I guess.
Unrelated. Well, somewhat related. I think I've become a snap addict now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I got into it.
This is what happens to Hearthstone streamers in the off season. Yeah. I understand. Welcome. I'm guesting on a Marvel Snap podcast later tonight, so
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One does.
As I do.
For you, it does make sense. Yes.
We should probably record this podcast first, though. So
that's a good idea. We should do that. Okay.
So
are you
Ben,
ready?
You
for
have
me to press the
Audacity. Well, I want to make sure that you listen back to Audacity. It sounds like the same mic that you're using now. It does not sound like a crappy webcam mic or something. Yes, I have been burned before.
Mine?
Yours.
Yeah. I listened to it before.
Okay, and you have plenty of hard drive space.
Should have enough. Yeah.
Okay. Every question I am asking you has been answered in the past by a problem, so that is why I'm asking up front.
This is like how the old Superman costumes used to have "Cape does not enable wearer to fly" printed on them.
Yeah.
Because somebody tried.
I have had people run out of hard drive space halfway through recordings. I'm guessing that you're fine.
I don't think that will happen to me.
If you press recording and look at the bottom right of Audacity, it'll tell you how many hours you have left. If it's a number in 3 digits, then we're okay.
Wait, where is that?
In Audacity? When you press recording in the bottom right, it says how many hours you have of this space left.
Okay. I've never paid attention to that, so okay. I've never had a problem. But...
Oh yeah. Also, wait. So am I supposed to have it recording during Audacity?
No, we're not recording now. No. You will have to have it recording during the show. Yeah. I'll tell you when that is. That's not now.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, you just press the record button and then set it and forget it.
Yep. Okay, cool.
We're fine. I'm sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're good. I think we're ready. All right.
So this episode has that many cards, Matt. So that's why we're being careful.
It effectively has about 7 cards because that's how many card packages we're going to talk about because we are not going to go card by card. And if we do, I will yell. We'll yell at people. All right. Press the big red button. Let us record right now.
Okay. I am recording.
I am as well.
Sounds good. Okay. I am also recording. We tweeted. We announced. We did some stuff. Okay. So, I'm going to count 3, 2, 1, and then we're going to clap after 1. Not on 1, after 1. We're going to do that twice. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
Thank you, Dean. Hello and welcome to episode 370 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday. Nope, it isn't. It is Friday, November 18th in the evening. I may or may not have forgotten to update the show notes. That doesn't matter. It's okay. We all know when and where we are. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
And Edelweiss is still traveling this week, but as a special guest, very special, from Mulgore, California, we have McBanterFace.
Hello. Yes, thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Really glad to have you. I lurk in your stream all the time. Now it's time for you to lurk on ours. I don't really lurk. Right. I say stuff. And also,
well, hopefully he's going to say stuff too, so that'll work out.
See, exactly. System works. And listeners, thank you so much for being here. Extra special thanks for those of you that left us reviews, all of our Patreon patrons, everyone that supports the show. You're all wonderful. You're all great. So before we get going, and this episode, we're gonna try and keep a brisk pace because it is gonna be dense with cards. Our last one was almost 2 weeks ago because of Wakanda Forever timing. So thank you all for being very patient, and we have so many cards to get through. We're gonna talk about card packages, not card by card. Don't worry, this is not going to be a 4-hour episode. That is not a jinx because I will stop the episode in the 2-hour mark.
Those days are behind me.
Yes. Those are 4 hours per section.
Right.
But before we talk about cards and before we talk about Life and Ladder news, we want to talk about Banter. So, hi, Banter.
Hello.
Hello. For anyone that doesn't know you, give us a brief background, your history with Hearthstone.
Sure. So, I started playing Hearthstone around 2017. It was the Frozen Throne expansion. So, currently, I've kind of gone full circle with that. I got introduced to it by a friend in college. Somehow don't think I had ever heard of it, or at least never was super interested in it. But my friend was like, this game seems like it's up your alley. Turns out it was. Started playing it. It's like, wow, this game is pretty fun. Didn't really have any prior experience with Magic, or played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was younger, but not much. So it was all kind of new to me. Definitely had a learning curve to it, but picked up on it pretty quickly. Had a really great time with it. Didn't get into it, super heavily or competitively until later on. But that was when I started. And then I think around 2020, started playing a lot more and got into the competitive scene and all that. So it's been a steady, growth in the amount of time that I've dedicated to Hearthstone. But it's definitely like at its peak right now.
Yeah, 2020 I think was pretty notable because I remember you spending more time streaming because we were all indoors for some reason. But we'll talk about that in a second. But when did you think you had a future? So I put down in the notes, actually. I put down, when did you have a future as a competitor and when did you have a future as a streamer? Which one came first? Were you a streamer that competed or a competitor that started to stream?
They kind of both came around the same time. I would say the competitive aspect came first, and that was more or less kind of getting into the other question, but why I started streaming. I would say the competitive part was the starting block for the stream.
Makes sense. Had you competed in other games before?
Not a ton. Here and there, I dabbled in collegiate competitions we actually did do TESPA Hearthstone. It was TESPA at the time. I know they still do some collegiate program now. Didn't take it super seriously. It was one of those things that, I didn't play a lot of Constructed back then either. I played a good amount, but I might have been playing more Arena at the time. I was way. I like this game. I used to be an Arena player, yeah. At least primarily. I played a little bit of Constructed, but I was never like, I'm going to hit top legend ranks or whatever. So I played 2 seasons of TESPA, I think, at various points in college. And then I actually focused more on Overwatch. Played that. Apart from that, never really did too much competitive stuff within gaming.
Interesting. Have you done much Overwatch 2?
I played Overwatch 2 one time. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It's just too time consuming. Too many games,
Yeah.
Hearthstone's enough for me.
Yeah. I think we're all feeling that, especially this time of year right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
What experience prompted you to think, hey, maybe this Hearthstone thing is my thing, that you might have a future in it?
Is this kind of from the streaming side of things or just in general?
Whatever made you want to compete as a job.
So in terms of competing, again, this kind of was 2020. Suddenly had all this extra time. I'm not commuting to work. I got I'm sitting at home the whole time. wanted something to fill the time. And, you know, I have always been a competitive person, even if it wasn't within gaming. I always, you know, wanted to be like dedicate myself and get good at something. It's just the type of person that I am. And I was playing a lot more Hearthstone at this point. I was like, you know, I'm like, whoa, I'm, you know, rank 200 on ladder. Maybe I can like get really good at this. So started putting more time into it, and eventually, you know, did some online qualifiers for master tours here and there. At some point, you know, I won one of them, qualified, and I was like, oh, you know, I can beat, you know, these other 400 people. I can hang in there. And then it all kind of snowballed from there.
And
so, I mean, you've been pretty deep into, you know, the Masters Tour system and Grandmasters, and so obviously there's a lot of change coming with Grandmasters ending. What are you hoping is going to come when they announce whatever it's going to be in 2023? We know that there's going to be Hearthstone esports. We have no idea what they're going to be doing, but what are you hoping that they're going to include as part of that?
So for me right now, especially, I'm pretty focused on the creator side of things from, you know, the streaming world. So I'm hoping that there will be some more synergy between those two things, because of course right now in the current system, not really a whole lot you can do with streaming, co-streaming. A big thing that's been discussed is like being able to broadcast Master Tour games. There was some hints thrown out by Abar on Twitter about that, so I'm pretty hopeful. That's one of the big things. You know, if it's possible. I know that the deal's expiring with over on YouTube. I want to say at the end of this year.
It is, yeah. It's the end of this year. It was a 3-year deal that started in 2020.
Yeah, so would be pretty cool to see it, you know, back on Twitch, whether it's on Twitch and on YouTube or whatnot, but being able to have it on Twitch and then being able to broadcast our own games, I think would be a pretty big addition. I know a lot of people like watching other people compete. I know that I do. So I think that's one of the biggest things for me, is just being able to have more overlap, because I think it's really good for the exposure of the game and for the competitive side of it.
so I'm looking at your stream stats, because now I'm trying to remember where it all began. And it really, like, in April 2020, you had 5 followers on Twitch. April 13th, 2020, you had literally 5. As of today, you have 14,000. That's more.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is more. Yeah, it's pretty weird. Somebody came in my stream the other day and was like, hey, you know, I noticed you haven't been in the Hearthstone scene that long. Like, your stream has grown so much. And I was like, yeah, it has. It's pretty cool. You know, I was actually looking at my stream the other day because I was wondering also when it had all began. So I went and like found some old tweets from basically right when I started. And basically,
while you still can.
Story of, while I exactly yes, it was the perfect time for it. The short story of how I started streaming was a friend of mine was like, hey, you watch other people stream. That's something you like to do. You know, at the time, especially, I started to watch both like competitive and also people who weren't super deep in the competitive scene. You know, I was watching a lot of Dog, like Asmo, Patra. You know, I was watching all these people, and it's like, you know, I could probably do that. I might not be as entertaining as them, but I can, you know, play, and some people will watch me. I was like, yeah, no, people will watch. I was like, yeah, well, you know, I guess if I'm playing anyway, I might as well do it. So turned on the stream for the first handful of times, you know, started like everyone else, no camera, had my my headphone mic and all that. And then I think one day it's like some people started showing up that were outside of my close friend group that was always lurking in there. You know, I had my, you know, group of like 5 friends that were always in there, make sure I get affiliate or whatever with the 3 average viewers. And then it all kind of just, I don't know if blew up is the right word, but it grew quicker than I would have expected.
Escalated?
It escalated quickly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, that was when I started watching your channel. I was in that COVID wave, because I also had a lot more free time and didn't have to get up for work in the morning, except for to do my own noon streams, because that was what I did to keep structure. It was a different time, listeners, all the way back in 2020.
I remember lunchtime with Matt back when I got to eat lunch during the workday. That was fun.
I specifically institute that so that I wouldn't disrupt my sleep schedule and I would see some sunlight during the day. Banter, I don't mean to call you out right now, but I'm kind of doing it by accident. Yeah, I mean, and so, would you consider yourself a full-time streamer?
Yeah, right now it's kind of become my main focus. I never really expected that to be the case when I started. It's sort of still kind of like weird to me, just the idea that like all these people, are sitting there and they're like, oh yeah, they want to watch me play some video game. It's like, it's especially weird when you like describe it to people. It's like, yeah, several hundred people consistently like, yeah, no, I want to watch you over all these other people. It's a weird thing, but it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's worked for you. It's been fun to watch.
Thank you.
Quick questions. What's your favorite card ever, if you had to pick one?
What if I had to pick two? Can
Go
I
ahead.
cheat?
Just guess.
All right. Blink Fox and Deathstalker Rexar. I can't decide.
So those are both doggo-related cards, so we're going to allow both of them to happen. But why those two?
I have some very fond memories of playing with both of them. Blink Fox, the voice line, perfect. It was always one of those, like, I mean, especially now, it's like, wouldn't be playable, right? Way below the curve. But at the time, we were playing, I think it was Thief Rogue or, what people were calling Tempo Rogue or whatever back then. That's a whole nother discussion. But,
Yes. Was that a Waggle Pick deck?
It might have been. I feel like I played it in a couple decks, but I remember I played a lot of it. And sometimes, you just get the perfect card, and it's the best feeling.
Did that go in Odd Rogue at one point, or was that too slow?
I think it did for a second. Maybe in Witchwood proper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Rexar probably needs less explanation. You get to build all these wacky beasts. Awesome card. Haven't touched it since it's gone back in standard because I like to sometimes win games. But back in the day, it was the best. Beautiful.
Reasonable. Yeah, it's the KFT cards returning to standard less impactful than many expected, except for the obvious format standouts of Spreading Plague, Defile, and Animated Berserker.
Yeah.
I mean, having been forced to play a fair amount of Deathstalker Rexar last week, I can tell you it's not as bad as it's probably better than a lot of the other hero cards. It's not terrible. I mean, that deck has just enough stuff in it that you can throw a 40th card in. It's not so bad.
Sure.
Yeah. Favorite deck, if you had to pick one.
I would say APM Priest. Test
No
subject.
Oh.
It's nobody would guess it from me being the, let's say, not the quickest player these days. But back then,
your game actions are fast. You just don't start moving until the rope, and then you time out your Garrote turns.
Only from time to time. But, back then, it was easier because I didn't have to think about my turns that much. I just played my cards because I wasn't as good. So I would, boot up Twitch, and I would see Dog getting through these, 2.5 Void Lords or whatever on these APM turns. And I was like, I can do that. So I did eventually, but I remember still there was like a simulator for it.
I was going to ask how much time you spent on the simulator.
A good amount. A good amount, yeah. I got pretty decent at it. I think I was, holding strong at a 50% win rate. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, you can do this in this game. That's another nice addition.
Not what I expected. Fascinating.
I don't think anybody would.
Yeah. And if you had to pick one, what Hearthstone accomplishment are you most proud of?
Uh, I'll say competing at the World Championship seems like a good one. There are a couple contenders for it, but that's like a cool thing to be able to say that I did at some point.
That was going to be my pick too. If I had to pick one, be like probably playing at Worlds.
It seems like a good one.
Yeah.
Safe choice.
Yeah.
It's a good bucket list item.
It is. Yeah.
Didn't you make it to the finals?
Semifinals, but close.
Quarters. That's right. Or semis. That's right. Yeah. I vaguely remember this. I remember you being there.
I was. It was not CGI.
Well, thanks for telling us a little bit more about yourself, and then we will transition. How's your life in ladder been going? Been playing much of Hearthstone or other games? What's been going on with you?
It has been good. My life has largely been intertwined with ladder lately. I've been playing about as much Hearthstone as ever, maybe outside of like the 2 weeks leading up to Worlds or during, the former Grandmaster seasons. Apart from that, been playing a lot of Hearthstone, having a good time with it. There's still probably just about enough variety for me. Of course, we're at the end of the expansion cycle. There's a lot to look forward to, but doing all right. Been playing a lot of Thief Rogue.
Oh, you're part of the problem, huh?
Yeah, I switched off the last couple of days, but there's definitely been like a 2-week period where I played nothing but Thief Rogue. It's fun. I get to generate stuff.
It's like the Untitled Goose Game of Hearthstone decks.
There was a time I remember watching during summer of 2020 how maybe generating stuff when with or against Cyclone Mages was not your favorite thing at the time.
It was fun to play. It doesn't feel great to play against, which is coincidentally the same feeling that I have about Thief Rogue. But I think a lot of people would agree with that sentiment in Hearthstone. It's fun when it's for you.
That's fair. Yeah. Steve, how about you? How's your life in ladder going?
Well, so I had to pay for all of the money we raised for Boston Children's Hospital last week. So we ended up raising $725. Thanks again, everybody, by the way. So Sidisi, as promised, dumped a whole bunch of decks on me. So many that I set up a wheel.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, because, I don't give my stream anything to spend channel points on anyway. So I set up a wheel. I put Beast Hunter at like 30%. And then he had a Quest Hunter, he had a Face Hunter, and then a few meme decks. And he's like, oh, and I want to throw Thief Rogue on. So I said, okay, if you're putting Thief Rogue on the wheel, I'm putting Quest Priest on the wheel. Those will be bankrupt and lose a turn in pure Wheel of Fortune parlance. So we did that. I played more than one game of Boar Hunter, which is not very good, at least in my hands. I played more than one game.
Not going to blame you for that one.
That was actually the more normal deck than the Prestor Hunter, which I also had to play a couple of games with, which, yeah, that was a Deathstalker Rexar deck. It didn't occur to me at the time that I had the opportunity to generate a Starfish off of the Deathstalker Rexar and then, mini my dragons. But it was the games with Beast Hunter and even like Quest Hunter and Face Hunter made up for the fact that I was playing those decks. And people are, once again, surprised that I can hit face but that is in fact the thing that I can do, under duress. But that's been, I've been playing less this week just because I'm tired of queuing into Thief Rogues, and also the TFT Set 8 PBE came out on Tuesday. So I've been playing a lot of that. That is delightful. There is a Sivir who throws a pizza. It is amazing. So I'm looking forward to that. And also I've been playing a fair amount of Dad of War at Dadnarok. So that's been taking up my time too. And we also just had the I was tempted, I didn't do it. The entire family's out of the house tonight. And they left about 5 minutes before both of the Pokemon games arrived.
Was it Violet and Sapphire?
Scarlet and Violet, yeah. So I almost opened up one of them and just started playing it, but I figured I'd let the children play with that first before I break into it. But I had to buy physical because there's 3 Switches and two games, and I'm not smart enough to figure out how to do that buying digital and not just end up with somebody in tears, probably me. So yeah, but it's a very busy gaming week, and now the Black Friday sales are starting, so I can start buying all the games I'm not going to play for 3 months.
Yay!
Well,
that's exciting.
How about you, Hat?
Okay, so it's been a week. Everyone, thank you so much for your understanding about us taking a little week. Wakanda Forever, the business of the theater was not so bad. We were super over-prepared for it, which is a good thing to be. However, on Saturday, well, Friday night, it rained, and, our roof is a little older. It leaks sometimes. That's just a thing that happens with roofs. And then the rain stopped, and the leak didn't. So we said, okay, well, I guess the water has to, finish draining off the roof. Well, it drained pretty aggressively, perpetually. And my managers were there. They had to be there till 3 a.m. anyways, and I had to be there in the morning at 8. So went to sleep after helping them out until about 1-ish in the morning, got there in the morning. No, it was not the rain. So I called a plumber and a roofer and said, whoever can get here first, somebody help me. The plumber got there first. A water heater in the back of an unused kitchen that was 22 years old had simultaneously and coincidentally burst, and it had nothing to do with the rain. Total coincidence. And it leaked down 9 floors. So it was damp and unpleasant. We had to close off an entire floor. But we were able to get it resolved that day. Got a carpet crew out, got a plumber out, but I still hurt. I'm still tired from dealing with that all day. So, happened, whatever. Luckily, the business was not super duper crazy demanding. Was able to get a little bit of downtime. Been playing some Hearthstone. I've actually been playing more Wild because I'm kind of done with Standard right now. Not for any reason other than I want to play with Death Knight cards. And when I log in, I go to look for Death Knight cards, and there aren't any. And so I'm like, I'll just do something else. But in Wild, I can play Edwin Van Cleef. And so I play that card. It's pretty fun. I'm bad at that format. And also, there's this thing where people have 40 health and then they play Reno when they're at 5. It's a lot of health. It's too much. I'm going to say it's too much.
And then they shadow step it and do it again? Or Zola it?
It's usually, it's not that class, but also usually I don't stick around to find out. Because I know pretty clearly how that game's going to go at that point. Either they're dead within 2 turns or I'm gone. Still been snapping here and there. I am also playing Dad Narok. I actually rolled credits on it. I still have more to do. Solid game. I like the first one better. I don't know. It feels like content, like reveal season is playing Hearthstone without logging into the client. Because, I'm playing social media a lot these days with keeping up with all the reveals and talking to people about it and planning. I've written a bunch of articles, and Vicious Syndicate had a cool recap article that I helped out with a little bit today, and, podcast scheduling, and also Thanksgiving is coming. So I feel pretty immersed in Hearthstone right now without actually playing a tons of games of Standard. I also have to clear my Battlegrounds Bash quests. I should probably do that, but I kept trying and then, not getting top 4s because I'm bad. So I had to work on that. But yeah, I don't know. Video games are fun. So, we have a lot of cards to cover. We're going to start with some news items. Let's go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So, there was a Death Knight show match. Listeners, I am certain you've heard about Death Knights. From after our last podcast, I'm sure you heard about the other cards that were revealed. There have been a lot of cool ones. We're going to touch on them, but they actually played with the cards already. There was a 12-person, 3-team Death Knight show match, Team Blood, Team Frost, Team Unholy, where each member of the team had a different combination of runes, and they played for money and glory and to show us all the new cards. Slissa and Garrett hosted it. did a great job. It was fun to see them casting some Constructed. And it was on for 2 days. It was on for the 16th and the 17th. Now, I don't think any of us watched a ton of this, but I know that we all skimmed through a little bit of it. And first of all, new class looks fun. Second of all, think the balance of power is a little bit outside of what we expected because Blood was by far the worst performer. Though Twitter conversation leads me to believe that was a deck construction and meta prediction thing. Because this is a super warp format. It was only Death Knights, and there was no aggro at all, which makes sense to me because the only way to build aggro here is like you could do a triple frost, low to the ground spell damage thing, or you could do a triple unholy thing. But why would you ever try and do either of those when you know that half of your opponents are going to be Blood DK? So you got to go super greedy, and if you go super greedy, then Blood kind of isn't great because it's good at dealing with aggro and not at dealing with super greedy. There was also a lot of rewarding greed with Sire Denathrius. A lot of Denathrius, and it's worth noting, literally every deck in the event was 40 cards. Every single one was a Renathal deck, and I believe all of them also included Denathrius. I don't think there were anyone that skipped on it. So,
I mean, it makes sense, right? Because like if your whole class is around getting corpses and getting things to die, then you're going to be pumping up Denathrius, so it's just kind of a natural inclusion in any of those decks.
Yeah. Steve, did you get to watch any of it, or do you have any immediately available opinions?
I watched some of it. A lot of it was on, while I was in meetings, and I couldn't really watch a lot of it, but I caught towards the end of the day. And I heard a lot of people kind of grumbling about it afterwards. I do wonder if this was, I think it was good to show off the format, and the production was amazing. The tournament rules, we were talking about this before the show, were confusing. There were like random bonus matches where each team was earning points throughout the week or throughout the weekend, throughout the 2 days. And then there were bonus matches where if one team lost, they lost a whole bunch of points that they won in the other match. And and then there was like a betting your points thing for the actual win at the end. It was a little bit hard to follow like what was going on with it. And I do think that like this type of a format kind of exacerbated this was kind of a Rorschach test for Denathrius, right? Because like if you are unhappy about losing to decks with Renathal or Denathrius in it, you're going to see a field full of Renathal decks and a field full of decks that are winning with Denathrius, and you're going to be like, well, here we go again. That's obviously not going to be the case in a full meta where aggro will exist. But that also kind of makes Blood seem a lot worse than it is because Blood's whole thing's going to be attrition, and you can't really play an attrition control deck with no other real win con other than Denathrius itself against a bunch of other decks in the field that also have other damage behind them and also have Denathrius that it's going to hit you for like 30 or 35. It doesn't matter how much you heal, you're generally going to lose to that. So I think that kind of may leave there was a lot of reminding people on Twitter that this is not going to be the meta we're going to have on day one. But I think that it's very good to get people used to the cards, to see them in action, to kind of get an idea of what all of the different types of Death Knight decks are capable of doing just based on what's available. Media had a really cool like combo burn deck that just took a long time to get ramped up. There were a couple different ways to approach it, but it was definitely a different way to roll this out. I think it was pretty successful in building some hype for sure.
Banter, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I also did not watch a ton of it, but what I did see, I thought it was cool. I do think the event as a whole is like a good idea. Of course, there was that whole Renathal Sire discussion. And I'm not as worried about it necessarily as some other people are. I do think things will change a lot once the expansion is actually out. I wasn't necessarily super surprised to see Blood kind of like underperform, especially against the field. I also my expectation going into it was that my point of view has been that Blood is probably the weakest rune of the three. But there's so much complexity with, deck building and combining all these different runes. I think nobody's really going to know, and nobody's going to know how to build these decks. Nobody's going to know what the best way to, utilize each of their sort of, like best features is going to be until a little after the expansion. So I'm excited to see what people come up with and start working with it myself. But I'm not ready to freak out quite yet about Denathrius in every deck type of thing.
Yeah, and this is definitely something that I think you definitely see a difference of opinion based on who you're talking to and what people are looking for. It is fair to say Denathrius and Renathal extremely frequently seen. That they are in about half of decks in Standard right now, both of them, just under half. The comparison that I made recently is that it's kind of a neutral quest line, where if you see Renathal at the start of the game, then Denathrius is definitely the quest reward, and it tends to end games in a way that is somewhat familiar. But personally, speaking as a person that likes to play decks that were on Steve's wheel, I like Iron Deep Trog decks. I've maintained that the Nathria format has been extremely diverse up until turn 9, and there are a lot of different ways to win up until about turn 9, and then things kind of homogenize after that, but games aren't meant to necessarily go that long. However, there are a lot of people that want games to go that long and are focused on the idea of reacting instead of doing proactive stuff as their primary plan. Hi, Steve, I see you. And in those circumstances, Denathrius kind of outclasses anything else you would want to do at that stage in the game, so it just makes things... It gives you fewer options if you want a longer game, because you're going to be in a Denathrius arms race, and as much fun as mirrors being decided by Theotar snipes is, it isn't. And Banter, I recall actually you talking about that during the last Masters Tour, I think.
Yes, and every single day since then.
Yeah. I mean, I tune in over at twitch.tv/McBanterFace. I think it's a great stream. But yeah, it just depends on the context. And we'll have a different context. I don't think this will be representative of what we see every game on ladder, but I don't think that concerns are unwarranted. And in fact, we have had an update from the balance team, from Aleko on the balance team. 3-part tweet thread here. I've gotten a lot of questions about Renathal and Daddy D over the past couple days, so I just want to reiterate what Celestalon is saying here. Don't worry, Final Design has their eyes on both these cards. We think this event's limited card pool probably skewed the power levels of these two cards, but we also want to make sure the new expansion launch is fresh and interesting. We made sure to have a balance change window available shortly after expansion launch, and we're ready to make immediate adjustments to these cards or any others if need be. So, this is the please work the weekend, we're launching another class, and we don't want Demon Hunter to happen again window. And I'm guessing that people working the weekend will get compensation days, I hope. Pay your workers. But, it's also worth noting that Worlds is on the 16th, and the expansion comes out the 6th. And Pascoa in the replies, who I believe is playing in Worlds, said, how soon would a potential balance patch be, because of Worlds on the 16th? And Aleko says, I can't confirm the exact date, but at least 5 days before the 16th. So, that means...
I mean, there's not a whole lot of other wiggle room beyond that, right? Like, because if they're going to decide to make a change, like, it's going to take them... I mean, that's going to put them at, what, the 11th?
So, like, here are the possible windows for a balance patch, right? The 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th. It's one of those 5 days, because it launches on the 6th. There's nothing to balance before that, and after that is more than 5 days. So, that we and it's probably not the 7th, because that's the day after. Could happen. I mean,
they did that with Demon Hunter, so...
They did the server-side thing, and that was a total nightmare. So I'm going to guess... it's either the 8th, 9th, 10th, or 11th. 10th and 11th are the weekend. So I'm going to guess they're going to aim for either probably Friday the 9th.
Yeah, probably.
And that's just the break glass in case of emergency before the first full weekend of the set patch.
Yeah. And you would expect that their philosophy with Denathrius and Renathal is going to be very similar to what they've said about Theotar, right? And they nerfed Theotar once, and they've already committed to nerfing him again at launch because they don't want Theotar to be defining the new set. If they feel like Denathrius is defining the new meta, you know, that's going to be their role. Whether or not it's too powerful, that's when they're going to plan to change it. And I mean, it's probably also worth noting that it being a neutral is also probably contributing to the problem to the perception problem, just because you see the cards more when they're neutral legendaries versus something like, I don't know, Topior, right? Like Topior is annoying, and I mean, Topior goes with Denathrius, so, but you know, like I'm just throwing out the first class legendary that came to mind that's annoying.
Guff.
Right? But yeah, Guff is, I mean, Guff is
people
a little
had Guff
bit
feelings.
more so than. Yeah, people do have Guff feelings.
They did.
Yeah, Guff is tough.
Mostly gone now.
Yeah. But even then, like, as long as one class isn't like dominant, then it's generally okay. But I mean, Denathrius is in freaking Imp Warlock. Right? Like it's in an aggro deck even, just as like you know, a finisher. So it's, even when you think like that's, you know, I'm safe from it, you're not really. So it's not just like, okay, well, there's this one deck that's gonna blow me out if I, you know, if I'm not planning for it. It's a lot of decks that, like you said, are playing past turn 9.
But is the problem Denathrius or Renathal? If there is a problem. Banter, tell me your Renathal feelings. I know you have an opinion on this. I know you do.
I do. That's been the big debate, right? It feels like you have to pick a side. It's like, you know, it's like like in Marvel Civil War. It's just that you're either anti-Renathal or anti-Denathrius. It's like you have to be one of them. Personally, I side more on what I get the sense is not the popular opinion in this group, just based on what I've heard. I think Denathrius being in every deck, more or less, or at least in half of them, is more a symptom of Renathal being the big problem card in terms of seeing a lot of variety. I think if you change Renathal in some way, maybe it's reduce the health, maybe it's remove the extra health. I'm not sure. I don't have the idea of how to change it, but I think we would alleviate the issue of Sire a lot in that way. So if I had to pick one to nerf and say this will provide more variety to ladder, I would nerf Renathal.
You'd be surprised, because I'm more like Grumpy Cat. I hope both teams lose.
That's fair.
You know, because like I mean, I'm a noted Denathrius hater as someone who likes to play slow priest decks.
It's in the notes. I noted it.
Yeah. Because I mean, well, because I can't play a lot of minions, right? Like getting 3 minions dead to infuse a clean the scene is like a challenge. So like I'm not playing Denathrius in those decks, and I lose to it a lot. But I mean, I'm playing Renathal because I have to, basically, in order to play those decks. But I would be fine if we didn't have that and we went back to just like, I played plenty of control decks before we had Renathal, and I was perfectly happy about it. And, you know, I wouldn't mind doing that, but it's like, you're kind of stupid to try to do that if you can play Renathal, because the extra health helps. But yeah, I do think like Imp Warlock is like an extreme example, and it doesn't really matter all that much, but like the extra time that you get kind of allows the Denathrius to get to the point where it can end games. Whereas when you're playing in a 30 card deck, yeah, you're more likely to draw it on time, but you're also not going to have as much time to be able to do whatever you're going to do and kill off all the things you're going to kill off ahead of actually getting it to do something.
For what it's worth, Team Stormwind, give me from hand ways to end the game by turn 9. Leave these cards the way they are. Make them organically worse by giving me some other way to murder. Right now, murder is too boring. I want more interesting murder. That's why I'm looking at Triple Frost.
I died to a Phylactery Warlock on turn 7 right before the show.
All right, don't give me that. I don't want that one. Okay.
I had a solid alibi in my hand, and I said, I can probably wait till next turn because they have 18 cards left in their deck, and they probably don't have everything. And sure enough, they had everything, and they killed me the turn with sitting with that Solid Alibi in my hand like an idiot. So, yeah.
Well,
be careful what you wish for. That is a monkey's paw wish, is what that is.
I don't want a lot of Phylactery Warlock around. That is a good counterexample to be careful. But the Solid Alibi player lost.
I didn't say I was innocent. I never said I was innocent.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm hoping that like Triple Frost is able to kill people. And we'll talk about runes later, but Banner, I agree with you that like I don't know how Blood DK wins games. And Alexander's Mograine is not it, but we'll talk about that later, much later. There are a couple things to note. Well, a few things to note about the DK show match, which we're still technically talking about. First of all, I really liked that the individual streamers were able to stream while the tournament was also being hosted in the main channel. You could go to each person's perspective, talk with their smaller chat, which was a lot of fun, and you could talk to the streamer directly, which was a lot of fun. Cantaloupe had great hats. Really want to call that out. Very good hat game over there. Regis' stream, and Regis crushed it. He demolished people. It was really entertaining to watch.
He's been holding out on us this whole time.
Apparently, he has been. Somebody tweeted about how he's got to be banned from competitive events because it would be too unfair for everyone.
Yeah, that was a Core tweet. Core knows what's up. Yes. And it is important to note that some people wanted to go to these other chats because the main chat was not moderated super great, which is not new to the Play Hearthstone channel, but it's also not new to the Play Hearthstone channel, so maybe they should do something about it, because the way that comments were being moderated was inconsistent. So, from what I can tell, if you made fun of Meaty's deck lists, you got banned. But if you made demeaning comments about women, then you were fine. And, like, I'm not saying... This is not a pro-shame Meaty's decks statement here. Just, like, maybe also time out the misogynists. Get them too. But, neither here nor there. It was a very typical Twitch chat experience. There's also... Rami had a tweet that blew up a little bit about how the representation... on the panel was definitely a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. I think over the past year we've seen a lot of people invited that were maybe more up-and-coming streamers or from different parts of the world, more focused on cultural representation here. That is not necessarily what happened here. We got a lot of really, really big names, and there are a couple women that were included, but it was more of a focus on people that already had established built platforms in Hearthstone, less people that were making... many, and not every community got represented here in particular. There's no one from the Latin America communities, no one from Asia Pacific, really. It's just, Northern Americans and Europeans that, they're all big names. We know all these people. But I was hoping to see a more diverse roster.
Yeah. And they weren't doing, as far as I know, like a Portuguese language version of this event or anything like that. Like there's only the English version. Because, like, you could, not that you'd want them to be, you'd want them to be, exposed to the main audience, but also, like, there are people who are in other regions who are going to be buying the cards and coming back. I mean, some of the big names, I kind of understand that, given that this is clearly, they're clearly making a big pitch towards returning players. Like, they've been giving out 150 packs to people who haven't played in a while. Just, like, in the gift, like they were giving out Warcraft Time a little while ago. Just saying, hey, why don't you come back and try it again? And that's been working on a number. I've seen a few people saying, oh, I'm going to crack 150 packs because Blizzard just gave them to me. So, like, Disguised Toast is someone who was playing Hearthstone recently. Not sure if it was because he knew he was going to be in this event or he was doing that and then they decided to invite him because he was interested in playing Hearthstone again. But he's someone who has a large audience that is probably also a number of, lapsed Hearthstone players that they're wanting to reach. So you kind of understand... them trying to go for as much reach as possible, but they've also in the past used these types of events to try to boost the profile of some people in underrepresented communities who could use a boost. And that did feel like a step back in this event.
Yeah. So I understand the focus of this event, but also it is worth noting that I think those concerns have some merit. Okay, to continue with complicated geopolitical discussions, let's talk about how Blizzard and NetEase have not reached an agreement for continued publication of Blizzard titles in China, and that means as of January 23rd, then there will no longer be Blizzard services provided in China at all. This is World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Warcraft 3 Reforged, Overwatch, StarCraft series, Diablo 3, and Heroes of the Storm. Those are all, as of right now, those are shutting down. The current licensing agreements are expiring. There will be refunds to Chinese players who purchase new content. It's possible that another provider will step in. This has happened before. The last time this happened was 14 years ago with a company called 10-9, where they switched over to NetEase, and services were offline for about a month. Also, it's worth noting, Diablo Immortal is covered by a separate agreement and will continue to run. So, the main reason why I call that out is not, for all you Diablo Immortal fans listening, though if you're listening and you like the game, more power to you. But that there's been some speculation this is intervention from the Chinese government. If it was, they wouldn't keep running one of the games. If the government stepped in and said, hey, you gotta stop, that game wouldn't escape. At least, unless I'm missing something pretty major. But I don't think I am. So, it's probably just about money. And I'm unclear who is at fault here, or if there is a fault, or if this is related to the Microsoft acquisition, or what. But it is worth noting this is kind of devastating because the Chinese Hearthstone community is enormous, and there are a lot of very, very good players that have had a lot of very good results recently. VK Lion, Chinese woman world champion. There's a lot at stake here that the Hearthstone community would really hate to lose.
Yeah, and EU China Gold Series and a number of other tournaments like that, and I mean, just having a whole bunch of people who are enjoying the game not be able to play it anymore because of things that are not under their control sucks. I mean, it just straight up does because of business agreements and political restrictions and stuff like that. It sucks. I mean, I guess when there was a small blurb about this in the Activision Blizzard results a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was just a week ago, I don't know. That was saying that NetEase operating these games represented 3% of overall revenue for Activision Blizzard. That's not 3% of Blizzard's revenue, but 3% of the overall corporation because NetEase only operates Blizzard games. So it's probably a bigger chunk of Blizzard's business, but that's also, you could see that being something that is considered to be very expensive because they're effectively selling at wholesale as opposed to retail into China because they're having to sell to another company who's taking a cut of that. And then if that's not bringing a significant chunk of business, then maybe it's just not worth it to, and maybe they thought that this was going to be a hardball tactic and it failed or whatever, who knows? But I mean, it's kind of like every time that there's been a sports lockout and the only people who really end up losing are the fans. And it's that even more because, I mean, I can't imagine somebody who's been putting all the time in to get through Gold Series, which is like a gauntlet. We have to get through a 400-person Masters Tour in order to advance into a seasonal championships. The size of the gold tournaments are orders of magnitude bigger that you have to play through in order to get to something like a seasonal championships and ultimately to Worlds, and to be putting that kind of time in, then all of a sudden, oh, hey, you're not gonna be able to play your game in 2 months. That's got to be devastating.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely more familiar with the competitive side in China more than anything else. Obviously, there's a huge casual player base as well, but it's crazy to think about, all the time that I've invested into Hearthstone. If one day I was just yeah, you can't do this anymore, I don't know what I would do. So hopefully there will be a resolution to that because it's definitely, very unfair for all the people who are putting in all that time. So, yeah.
Yeah. I would hope it's figured out, just because, I want the thousands and thousands of players who play the game to keep playing the game, and I want to make sure that I still see some of these big names out there. But either way, that's mostly it for the news this week. We do have a couple new portraits coming to the shop: Jiraxestein and Poisonheart Maev. I don't know, is Jiraxestein like a Frankenstein?
I think so. It's a Hollow. It's still Hallow's End, even though it's almost Thanksgiving.
Yes. And also the Death Knight Baku hero power has been confirmed. It's 2-1 with charge. So, if you want to play DK, prepare yourself for a couple of 2-mana 2-1, like hero power 2-1 charges. All right, we're going to briefly touch tournaments, and then we're going to do explanations. We're going to talk about a lot of cards. Let's go.
It's the Grand Tournament!
So we had Lobby Legends this past weekend. The big winner was Junju, who won in 6 lobbies in the top 8. And there's they do this from time to time. I don't know if it's after every Lobby Legends, but there is a Lobby Legends recap video with Sottle going through some of the games and some of the unusual tactics that Junyu took through the tournament. I think that's a real. I will honestly be very honest and say I don't know enough about high level battlegrounds to call out those kinds of things out, but Sottle does. So I would recommend, if you're looking for highlights from this tournament, that is absolutely a good place to go. But we also had the finals of both the constructed and battlegrounds tournaments for Supergirl Gamer Pro. The winner of the constructed tournament was Rusinha, who had Curse Imp Warlock. Whoops, I just moved my notes. Curse Imp Warlock, Naga Priest, Enrage Warrior, and Beast Hunter versus Witchy Murloc, who had Thief Rogue, Naga Priest, Ping Mage, and Aggro Demon Hunter. Worth noting, this I believe was Witchy Murloc's first tournament ever. She only played in one of the 3 weeks leading up to the finals, and then won that, and then got her place in the finals. So getting top 2 in a first tournament is quite an accomplishment. And in the battlegrounds tournament, Nusen was the big winner, though notably Rusinha, who won the constructed event, took 3rd in the battlegrounds event. So played in both of these and almost took down both of them single-handedly. So this is again a player we don't get to see very often, but she's incredibly talented in multiple formats, and hopefully we'll get to see more of her in the future in some other events, whether they be Supergirl Gamer Pro or just the general Masters tours. And we did get some information about Worlds coming out from Hearthstone Esports. It's going to be, again, as Hat said, the weekend of December 16th to 18th. It'll be on the same schedule as the seasonal tournament, starting at 3 a.m. Eastern, midnight Pacific, and then going for the remainder of the day. And then, basically going through Asia Pacific and EU based on what the groups are. And we will see what happens with that, but that's going to be in the next meta. So I guess we should talk about what that next meta potentially can look like, so we know what we're going to have in store for us for Worlds.
That was very concise, Steve. I appreciate you.
I'm trying.
I dropped some stuff. It's fine. All right, listeners. The number 1 tip I can give you, figure out the Death Knight cards. When you go to the Hearthstone card library on the website, choose Death Knight as a class and then filter to standard cards. Don't just filter to March of the Lich King, because there are a lot of cards that are really important in both Core and Path of Arthas, and you're not going to see 58 of the cards coming out for the class if you don't change that dropdown. That's what I'm doing, and we're going to talk about the new card packages that were revealed after a brief overview of how we feel about the Death Knight specs. Too many cards to talk about in Death Knight. A lot of other shows have done that. 2 of my other shows have done that. And we talked about some Death Knight cards last time. We are going to give overall spec chat and probably touch on a couple of the legendaries. But we want to also talk about the new card packages that have come out, because how they're revealing cards this season, honestly, it's just so good. It's just so great that you get an understanding of what a class is going to do, because they give you 4 or 5 cards that work together and say, hey, this is what you're going to probably do in one mage deck or whatever, and you can mix and match them. And as of right now, we have all of the Paladin cards in the new set. So if you want to go build some Paladin decks, you can do that right now today and not miss a thing. Really big fan of it. So to start off with, Banter, you said you weren't a big believer in what Blood is trying to do. Tell us a bit about what Blood is trying to do and why you're not so sure about it.
Well, Blood definitely seems like the sort of quest priest-esque strategy as like its main sort of ideas that it's got going on. Of course, is it Mograine?
So Alexandros Mograine, this is the legendary that's had people a-talking. It's a 7-mana, 7/7 legendary undead triple blood rune. Battle cry for the rest of the game. Deal 3 damage to the end of your deal 3 damage to your opponent at the end of every turn. End of every one of your turns.
I did see a lot of discussion. Right. I did see a lot of discussion about that card. The first thing that I saw or thought of when I saw it was, oh boy, for the next month or whatever, I'm gonna have to listen to people talk about how broken this is with Bran, as they do with literally any card that says Battlecry on it at any mana cost. Was the first thing I saw. Was not surprised to see that. I don't think it will be a problem. I don't think the card is particularly good. Some people are freaking out about it. Seems really, really slow to me. I think people are maybe overestimating how much 3 damage per turn is with your 7 mana 7/7. So yeah, I'm especially just also the decks that I tend to play. Of course, I'm on the competitive side, so I play just about everything, but the stuff that I enjoy more tends to not be the heavy attrition decks right now. And I think that's the direction that Blood is more leaning towards. Of course, like I really like the rune system because you can sort of mix and match this stuff, but just in general, I think that's where they want to go. And I don't have as much faith in that to succeed as much as the other 2 runes.
I mean, I'll push back on the Quest Priest comparison a little bit because Quest Priest has a win condition.
Yeah, that's the big thing that it's missing. Yes, you have 10 mana win the game. They have 10 mana Bran Mograine,
right?
Which seems worse.
This is more like Baron's Priest than Quest Priest.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, the win condition is exhausting your opponent's will to live. That's basically the win condition. And I mean, that only goes so far at a certain point. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be some people who are going to get very frustrated playing against it, if it exists, because people get very frustrated playing against any slow control deck that heals. And because the games take long, and for some reason, some people don't like games that take more than 5 minutes. I don't understand it, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, it's going to be kind of annoying to play against, but it doesn't seem like it's broken. It seems like if it had a stronger finisher of some sort, other than Denathrius, then it might get there, but it doesn't have that right now.
Yeah. The Blood stuff that I'm most interested in, there is this like sneaky hand buff package with Blood Tap is a double rune 2-mana spell, give all minions in your hand +1/+1, spend 3 corpses to give them +1/+1 more. There's a couple hand buffing minions like Darkfallen Neophyte, 3-mana 2/5 Battlecry, spend 2 corpses to give all minions in your hand +2 attack. These are interesting cards that would probably synergize with Unholy. Blood Tap is a little tougher because it's double blood rune, so I'm not really sure what you put with that. I haven't brewed the deck yet. But I do agree that the hard control stuff, what I like about the hard control stuff is that it reminds me a lot of Ticketus Warlock, is that I don't think it's meant to be competitive, but I think it's meant to give a certain type of player something that they just relish doing, even if it doesn't win that much. And every single turn that they see that 3 damage tick, they're going to be like, oh yeah, oh yeah. So I'm glad that's going to be there for them. but I don't think that people are going to win games because of Alexander Smograin. I've been comparing him to a Blaze Caller, where just he's a 7-drop. Blaze Caller, 7 mana, 6/6. He played an elemental last turn. I believe it does 6 damage. Yeah. So this will probably hit twice, and maybe attack once or draw a removal spell. It's fine. It can only go face. Can't kill a minion, but it's a little bigger, and it keeps going if the game keeps going. It's okay. But if this was a triple frost card, it would be broken, because endless damage in a damage deck is good. But endless damage in a deck that doesn't do damage doesn't do anything. Because if you bring them from 40 to 31, who cares? It doesn't matter. But if you bring them from 9 to 0, it's a big deal. So yeah.
It's giving you, it's not really burst, it's inevitability eventually.
Well, I mean, inevitably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not really inevitably, because Denathrius will kill you before you get to that point, and or heal all that damage that you spent like 16 turns building up.
So it's not really inevitable. It's moderate.
It's more
moderately
it's
inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is evitability a thing? We're going off the rabbit at the trail.
We have too many cards to start settling questions like that. We
okay.
cannot do that.
So,
but I think that like the 1 rune blood cards like are a pretty decent removal package for for the other specs, right? Like Soulbreaker, the weapon that gives you corpses if you kill a minion. Heart Strike, if you does direct damage, gives you a corpse. The Death Strike, Lifesteal deals 6 damage to a minion. Like those are legitimate cards that you can splash in. I just like going all in on blood does not seem like the way you're going to want to go at launch, at least.
Yeah. Makes sense. Banter, are you excited about Frost?
I am the most excited about Frost.
All right, good. So I'm going to talk about Unholy now, because I'm scrolling. So I wanted to make sure... I had a feeling that you wanted to talk about the Rogue Mage rune. So I'm going to talk about the Zoo rune real quick here. Unholy is... I feel like people are drawn to either Blood or Frost, right? Because one is games take forever, and the other is games end when I say so. And, those are like 2 very clear demographics of players. But I'm going to talk about Unholy because it plays minions. And the other Death Knight specs don't do that, and I kind of like minions. I'm kind of a fan. So, Stitch Giant is the card that stands out to me. It's the 10 mana 88 that costs 1 less for each corpse you've spent this game. And there are a lot of heavy board presence cards here in Unholy. We didn't see quite as much of that at the event, because it still felt like the Unholy cards were really like, when you build for greed, Unholy is Denathrius food. And it felt like I don't have a lot of strong memories about what Unholy was doing at the event. I was mostly just scrubbing through the VOD looking for Frost lethals. But I'm still really curious about... I bet that Unholy will probably have the first Tier 1 deck that we see, because it'll be easy enough to build on the first day of just do proactive things until the game is over. And I'm really curious where it ends up landing, because I think there are some cards here that are really good on rate, but I also think it is the most enmeshed with the new corpse mechanic. And I don't really know how that's going to go, because there were times when I would look at the stream and some people would have like 30 corpses they had no plan to use. And other times I would look and people would mirror Manipulator for 3. And the Unholy seems to be in the middle ground there of it wants to generate and use corpses very quickly. So I'm really curious about it. I don't have a good read on it now, and I just want to build a lot of decks with this rune.
So I'm going to ask a question. I know we're not talking about individual cards, but I'm going to ask about one individual card because I want to get your takes on this.
Yeah.
How much do you think we're going to see the Scourge in actual play? And the Scourge is a 9 mana legendary spell, 2 Unholy rune, fill your board with random undead.
I mean, how many people do you expect to play Thief Rogue?
Okay, fair enough. That's a jackpot card, I guess. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
Maybe Sunwell every now and then. 9 mana is so expensive.
Yeah.
It's so much mana.
9 mana for the Scourge.
This is payback for... yeah. this is payback for every time that we've talked about a mage card and we said, why are we going to play this? And I say, because you're going to get it out of Rune of the Archmage, isn't it? That's what that is. Okay.
It's Swisscale Trickster answers a lot of questions, because the question is, when am I going to put the Scourge in my deck?
Yeah.
The meta would have to be weird for me to want to do that and also want to play Double Unholy DK. Like, maybe this deck has crazy staying power, but I feel like if I need a board that badly, that I'd probably rather do something that doesn't need board at all. It's... The appeal of this is to do something goofy, but this is not Rune of the Archmage. This is 7 minions. 7 minions is not all that exciting.
And it's not even like undead that have died for you. It's not like resurrecting.
It's not even class
your
limited.
Undead. It's just like,
it's
random.
random.
Like random stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of not super well statted minions in that bunch, so
there's a lot of them.
I can't imagine it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I like I'm trying to think, just a thought experiment, what would justify playing this card, and I cannot come up with anything other than I want to. And if that's you, if you want to, please play with this card. Please go ahead. But compare it to Drakefire Amulet. This is clearly worse. And we also are mostly not paying full price for that card.
Or whatever Ultimate Infrostation is actually called.
Well, Frostworm Fury costs 7.
Yeah, right.
That is a lot less. Trying to think of other like board in a box cards that we play, but
like
a lot of them are 7.
Floating Gallery.
Well, no, people would just die.
But that was...
You knew what you were getting out of that. I can't think of anything that is just a bunch of random minions. Like it's all 7 mana stuff usually, right? Like Power of Creation cost 8, and we paired that with other stuff. The Warlock Galacrons cost 7 and got way worse when they printed dormant minions. I can't really think of anything else that would justify using this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good card. I think it's a fun card. I think it's fun. I want people to play it if they want to play it, but I don't think that you should play it. All right. Frost. Talk to us, Banner.
Frost is the coolest. It's got to be. It just feels to me
it
like
is
it's
objectively the coolest.
You know what's cooler than cool? Ice cold. That's what we were taught. That's what we were taught years ago.
It feels like the most flexible rune to me. It feels like the most up my alley. Some of the cards look sweet. The 6 mana 5/5. I just had the name up. Marrow Manipulator, triple frost card. I don't know how to make that one work exactly, but all I read is 6 mana 5/5 Pyroblast, and that sounds awesome. I think the Snowfall Guardian deal 5 card. You have discounts, you got mana refresh. It just seems to me like it'll be fun to play. So that'll probably be the first one that I gravitate towards.
Yeah, I mean it seems like the damage from hand spec mostly. And I mean that's if we want to play Garrote Rogue again, it's not quite Garrote Rogue, thankfully. But I mean, Meaty was chaining together a lot of damage with the deck that he brought. I mean, some of that was Denathrius, to be fair, but there were, and there's I think there's one that like doesn't it copy a frost spell? I'm trying to remember. I'm scrolling.
There's the 3 rune
legendary
Lady Death Whisper.
Yeah.
4 mana 4/3 Death Rattle. Copy all of your frost spells in hand.
Yeah. So you get a bunch of Howling Blast. You get a bunch of, I mean, Remorseless Winter's a little bit expensive, but it still does face damage. It's 4 mana spell, deal 2 damage to all enemies and draw a card, which helps you find more frost spells. So even if you're just like getting, even with just like a little bit of spell damage, you may not even need it, then you can just get a lot of damage going.
She also, you want to get horny on main, she doubles your Horns of Winter. Like, that's going to be a lot of mana very quickly.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we've got Death Chillers, which is the new like Flame Waker, except both pings can't hit the same target, but it's a 2-drop. Like you can do that, and if you have that, like 3 Horns of Winter, and also, what if you just copy Frostworm's Fury, the 7-mana triple rune, deal 5 damage, freeze all enemy minions, make a 5/5. If you copy 2 of those, if you play 4 of those in a row, does your opponent uninstall before they concede? Or do they just close the client first?
Well, if Twitter still exists then, I think you go to Twitter in between, probably. Talk about how it is basically like Snowfall-esque. Snowfall Macaw. Seen that one before?
I'll do an AMA between the first one and when I lose. Hey, getting Quad Fury to AMA, and just see how many questions I can answer before the game is over. Yeah. So, I am unsurprised that people that like playing rogue decks really enjoy Frost, because Frost is definitely the roguiest, but also it seems like the most efficient, especially in terms of spells and draw and damage and draw. Like I'm here for it. So I'm very excited for this. There are some solid base DK cards that have no runes at all. We're going to see so many body baggers. So 1 mana, 1/3, undead, Battlecry, gain a corpse. Effectively 2 corpses, because the 1/3 is going to die eventually. We're going to see a lot of Chill Fallen Barons, 3 mana, 2/2, Battlecry and Death Rattle, draw a card. Instead of AI, it's a guy. So you're going to see a lot of him. And there are a couple other cards here. I don't know. To avoid marinating too much longer on the new class, like, it looks kind of sweet. I want to play with these cards.
Yeah, Anti-Magic Shell's coming back.
It is. That'll be a single Unholy Rune.
That's something that if you get, start going into like an Unholy Zoo type of thing. I mean, Anti-Magic Shell was one of the better Death Knight cards back then. I mean, I don't know how it stands up now. It's only +1. It's 3 mana +1/+1 instead of 4 mana +2/2. But like the can't be targeted by spells and hero powers against some decks is backbreaking. So that could be potentially relevant.
Especially when you're building your deck around it, or at least with it in mind, as opposed to randomly rolling it off a Lich King where you might not have as many minions.
Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to playing with new cards. We'll see when Theory Crafting is, because that hasn't been announced yet. But it's the Thanksgiving holiday is coming up on the 24th, and what do we have left as far as reveal times? We're getting reveals all the way through Thanksgiving weekend, I think. Let's see here.
I know I have to wait till the 22nd for Priest, so.
It looks like the last reveal is the morning of the 26th. That is Saturday, the 26th, Saturday, Thanksgiving weekend. Also, by the way, I want to point out, we were informed that on Twitter today that these reveals are not scheduled on the main card library, because they don't want to run the risk of having scheduled reveals coming out before the actual cards from the creators. So for this entire season, Alkali has just been turning them on manually. Every single reveal.
And some of them in like the middle of the night, right? Like
it's been all over. So I'm just gonna coin concede to Alkali now. Thank you very much for your dedication. Because manual is the worst.
It sure
so
is.
It's much appreciated. So
one other thing that we should mention before we go any further is that, because we didn't call it out when we were talking about the show matches, there were some cards that were randomly generated that were effectively spoiled as part of the show matches, like anything that's generating random undead or anything like that. We're not, or like Sunwell cards, whatever. We're not going to talk about any of those. We're going to allow the people who are scheduled to reveal those cards to do those, and then we'll talk about those next week. So we're only talking about the ones that have been officially revealed.
Correct. Listener, if you were worried we wouldn't have enough cards to cover, don't you worry. We're fine. So we're going to start off with Druid, the Undead Swarm package. This was revealed today. We've got 5 cards that we've seen here, and it's so I almost said very focused on undead. It isn't. There are 2 cards that actively care about undead, 3 cards that actively care about undead, 1 that is undead, and 1 that is kind of open-ended. So we've got Lingering Zombie, 1 mana 1/1 undead, Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 disarmed zombie with Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 zombie. So it's a 1/1 with a 1/1, then with a 1/1. Remember Possessed Villager? Imagine if the possessed thing was also possessed. It's 3 1/1s in a row instead of 2. There's Nerubian Flyer. It's 2 mana 2/3, Battlecry. If a friendly undead died after your last turn, summon a 2/2 Nerubian. So it's a 2/3 if the undead trigger is active. Remember, after your last turn means my opponent's turn or my current turn. So if you play that 1 mana 1/1 on your turn, if they kill it on their turn, or if you trade with it on your turn, then this is active. And then you get a 2/3 and a 2/2. There's Wither. 2 mana spell. Choose a minion. Each friendly undead steals 1 attack and health from it. This is like Serena, where it slurps the stats. But also, if it goes down to 0, stuff doesn't keep getting buffed, because you can't steal something that isn't there. So if you target a 2/2 and you have 3 undead, that last one doesn't get buffs. Only the first 2, because then there's nothing left to steal. There's Elder Nadox, 5 mana 5/4 undead. Battlecry, destroy a friendly undead. Your minions permanently gain its attack. That's damage. That's a savage roar.
In a class that already wants to buff their minions. So
yes. But it can only destroy a friendly undead. It cannot destroy any minion. And then there's Unending Swarm, 6 mana spell. Resurrect all friendly minions that cost 2 or less. So, for example, if you play Scale of Onyxia, then you play this. This is also Scale of Onyxia. That's just an example. You can play it for undead minions to get another body in a box. And if you have Lingering Zombie, I hope you like 1/1s. But yeah, it's open-ended. So we have a go-wide strategy here, but I don't think this is necessarily pigeonholed into aggro, especially Unending Swarm. You can kind of do all sorts of stuff with that. I'm sure someone creative will do something there. I don't really understand Wither as much. Nadox, I understand. I want to kill people, and this lets me do that, even with an Amalgam of the Deep. That's +2 attack. But if you have anything bigger, that's kind of nice.
Yeah. I mean, is Wither just like, I mean, if you're going all in on Undead, that's kind of just like, let's get through a taunt, right? Because, I mean, it's a buff spell it's like a Power of the Wild plus, getting rid of a minion.
Assuming you have Undead.
You have to go all in on Undead, yeah. That's the thing.
If you only have 1 undead minion, it's 2 mana, give something -1/-1, give a minion +1/+1. That's not exciting, because I don't want to play that. So you have to have a lot of undead in play, which leads me to believe it's probably a trap. Because what I probably want to do, unless the 5 other Druid cards are really supportive here, or unless we have a lot of undead neutrals that I haven't poked through yet, like, for Wither to be even passably good, it probably has to have 3 friendly minions on your side.
Yeah, probably 4.
I think 3 would be okay.
Well, it depends on if you're trying to kill a taunt or you're just trying to, get a buff.
I don't know.
Yeah. It seems ambitious.
I think so. Banter, your thoughts?
I agree. Wither does not seem very good. The card that I'm most interested out of these is probably the most unique one, which is Unending Swarm. Seems, I mean, it's board in a box. 6 mana's decent cost, I think. So I think there might be something with that. Might fit in a variety of decks. It just looks like some powerful stuff can happen with it. And then the other things, for me, it's like kind of too early to really know. I'd have to see the other undead minions that come out later that go along with it to know if it's really worth it to run these.
Yeah, and we do have all the neutrals, so it's unclear if the other 5 cards in the Druid set have any synergy here, or if they're completely different. If we look at the neutrals, I mean, there are a good number of 2-drops and 3-drops, but I don't remember scrolling through and seeing anything that's like, wow, I want to play undead neutral aggro. Like, nothing really stood out to me there. There's Boneflinger, which is the if a friendly undead died after your last turn, you deal 2 damage on a 2 mana 2/3. So if that's a Mercspark yield, then I'm interested in that. But that's not enough to make me think I'm going to have a board of 7 undead all the time.
Yeah. I mean, Grim Necromancer is in core. So that's 3 undead for 1 card. I'm not saying I'm excited about it. I'm just,
I would hope not.
saying that that's a thing.
It's,
You know how much I love my aggro swarm decks hat. It's my favorite. But,
yeah.
You do have Foul Egg, Death Rattle, summon a 3/3 undead chicken. That's just delightful. But,
I mean, I don't want it for brunch, but I am a fan of chickens. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna filter by undead and look.
I mean, you know what the name of the token is, right?
Foul.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So let's see. Out of the neutrals, there are a couple of them here. Arms Dealer, 1 mana, 1/2. After you summon an undead, give it +1 attack. Permanent attack. Like, that's pretty snowbally. Banshee, 1 mana, 2/1. Death Rattle. Give a random friendly undead +2/+1. So that's basically 1 mana, 4/2. Obviously, we have Amalgam of the Deep. There's Frycool Necrolite, 2 mana, 2/2. Battlecry, give a friendly minion Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 zombie with Rush. And that's all the 1s and 2s that I'm excited about playing. We're not going to play Mistress of Mixtures. We're not going to run Wild Pyromancer, which I guess is undead, in our Druid deck. And there's, once we start getting to 3s and 4s, I'm a lot less excited. Though Murlocula probably does fit as a double-tagged undead Murloc. Probably does fit. But still,
yeah. And then you got stuff like Dracarian Bomber to give the undeads Reborn, which, in a token deck is not irrelevant.
It's fine.
I'm not excited, but it's something.
That is the feeling I get when I look at the undead neutrals, right? Like, it's if this was what we were going to do to put Wither in a deck, I'm not withering. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. I think it's appropriate that you don't feel anything when you're talking about the undeads because they're not feeling anything either.
It's true. However, I feel things when I talk about the new mage cards that Language Hacker revealed today. So we've got a package of cards here that's very pew-pew magey that I'm very excited about. So
yeah,
it's all built around Arcane Bolt, which we saw on day 1, but it's important because it's called out by name on these cards. 1 mana spell. Deal 2 damage. Mana Thirst 8. Deal 3 damage instead. As a reminder, Mana Thirst 8 is if you have 8 mana crystals in your bar. If your bar at the bottom corner of the screen says /8 or a larger number, then this is online. They don't need to be full crystals. You don't need to spend 8 of them. You just need to have 8 crystals. So we got Arcane Worm, 1 mana, 1/2 Battlecry, add an Arcane Bolt to your hand. We got Arc Splitter, 3 mana, 3/2 Death Rattle, add 2 Arcane Bolts to your hand. Magister's Apprentice, 2 mana, 3/2, your arcane spells cost 1 less. And Vexalis, 5 mana, 3/5 Elemental Legendary, your arcane spells cast twice. Ooh. So Steve, I know that you ran a query about arcane spells in Standard before the set comes out. How'd that go?
It's Arcane Bolt. it's
okay.
Like this is like a pretty good use case for why you want to reveal the package together. Because I could see this being like, oh, here's Vexalis. Like, well, what arcane spells are they? Oh, okay, we can AI twice and get 4 cards. We can get
Rune Orb. You can Rune Orb twice.
Yeah.
You can siphon mana twice.
Yeah, I mean there's some other direct damage, but like it's really Arcane Bolt is the thing. I had somebody ask in the Discord today, can you mass poly twice? I mean, you can. It's gonna turn your sheep into sheep and your Vexalis into a sheep. So that's probably not what you want to do.
You could.
But I mean, a lot of the other stuff that you're doing here just doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess Shooting Star is okay, but like you're really
6 mana to deal 2 to 3 minions. Watch out, ladies.
I guess the other potentially relevant card would be just AI during a combo turn.
Yeah, it's an
expensive sprint though.
I was on Naga Mage Copium today because you can double Gift of Ajara. That is an arcane spell. We're probably already running Slither Spear, but these cards make me want to go back to Tempo Mage. Slither Spear on 1, like, you probably want to set up multicaster, so you're probably running some First Flames, Runed Orbs, maybe a Frozen Touch here or there that you're okay with casting for 3. And then drawing cards with multicaster, stalling the game with Alibi, and then maybe, just maybe, you get to turn 8. Vixalis, Apprentice, you take a lot. That's kind of where I want to
hear me out. You
All
know
right,
what
I'm
we're
here.
playing on turn 5?
Aegwin?
We're playing Aegwin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aegwin on Arcane Worm. Ooh, that'll be gross.
Juicy.
Well,
yeah.
Well, there's also that there's that 6-drop legendary where with the Death Rattle, you're the first spell you cast or the first card you play on each turn
Bone
costs
Whisper.
0, you die in 3 turns. So that lets you fit in a Guild Trader.
If you wanted to do that.
Yeah, because Vexalis is 5, Magister's Apprentice is 2, Guild Trader's 4. So if you have that, I mean, they're gonna die once you start doing that. So I mean, then you could. I mean, that's gonna be that's gonna be 5 damage a bolt. You can get there.
Yeah, I think it is entirely possible to kill people with this, which makes me excited. Even at 40 life, you can probably kill people with this. Team Stormwind, give me ways to end the game that feel fun and different. Yeah. I'm curious about, because you could fit this in. We were brewing with this in the Discord today, and there's a lot of different ways to go. You can do the Naga thing, you can do a multicaster thing, you can try and fit this in a Wildfire package. I do like the Bone Whisper idea, the Bone Lord Frost Whisper. I do like that idea, because this seems like the kind of deck that would benefit from the 3 0-mana cards pretty significantly. Like, imagine if your 0-mana card was a Refreshing Springwater or something. Actually, I guess it'd be the first card each turn, so you wouldn't want that. Yeah. You get the idea. Something like that. I am very, very curious about how this will end up coming together. All right. Paladin. We got 2 Paladin packages. You got the entire Paladin set. Start off with the dragons, which I did not see coming. So, we got 4 dragon cards. Only one of them, or 2 of them really care about having other dragons. The most interesting one is also the most interesting card box in the set, I think. Anachronos. 7 mana, 8/8, legendary dragon. Battlecry, send all other minions 2 turns into the future.
Shouldn't that be the Quantum Leap theme, though?
I don't have that in my soundboard.
Oh, you need to get it.
I'm just going to work with that. So, sending them into the future. I'm going to quote myself from the Angry Chicken 2 days ago. The minions poof, and 2 turns later, they foop back. You poof out, you foop in. So, when they go away, they come back if there's board space. There's no board space, they do not come back at all. No death rattle, no nothing, just gone. Otherwise, it's the same timing as dormant. So, your minions, the turn that you get them back, cannot attack. Your opponent's minions on the turn after can attack. Because that works at it's the start of your turn. A minion can attack if it was in play at the start of the turn. Yours weren't, theirs were. At the start of their turn. So, it's not quite a Gigafin. It's not quite a Maiev. It's not quite a Secret Passage. It's a little bit all 3. Interesting combination.
Secret?
Because Secret Passage, remember, if your hand was full, you wouldn't get the cards back.
Okay, I see.
So we've got a capacity issue that Secret Passage also had. We got a minion that eats minions and then theoretically gives them back, like Gigafin. And we've got dormant timing where they're gone for 2 turns, like Maiev. A little bit of all 3. Just a little bit.
I don't want anything to be like Secret Passage. So,
okay.
You know.
So
I mean, it's undercosted, right? So that clearly this is accounting for the fact that you get like 1 turn's respite, and then your opponent gets to hit you in the face with everything that poof back in.
But if you're playing any kind of minion deck, and this happens to you are you developing into the empty board? If you lose
Depends on how big your board was to start with.
Yeah, if you lose 4 minions, right, you're probably not going to play more than 3. If you have a wide board, it's a really tough call what to do.
Well, so it's 2 turns into the future. So the next turn, you can always play some stuff, force some removal, right? And then you don't get them back until the turn after. I get the sense that, like, at least in my world of Hearthstone, I don't see many full boards. I don't know what the next expansion will look like. Maybe more board centric. I don't know. I don't expect there to be that many situations where it's like, I have too many minions, so this is annoying to play against. I'd be surprised to see that a lot.
Okay. It's probably not going to be more
like
board-based than
right?
Nathria. Yeah. Like, being more board-based than Nathria seems kind of hard.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's also like, what are you trying to do, right? Because like you're basically just trying to not die at that point, and you're not even really solving the problem because you're not doing this to get through a taunt because your minions are gone too.
I mean, I want to hit them for 8 the next turn.
You do, but then they still get a chance to deal with your 8/8.
Well, they have a chance to deal with my 8/8 no matter what, but like, if you wait 2 turns and then the turn their stuff comes back, you equality tax them, that seems pretty solid. Because their stuff comes back and then you instantly kill it.
Yeah. To me, it feels like more of a stall tool than anything. Gives you time to, gather your resources, take a turn to play whatever card, and then, like you said, on the following turn you can clear their board, right? So I view it more as like a slow card rather than a proactive one where you want to play it just to hit them in the head for 8.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other dragon cards are kind of hard to evaluate, but there are a few cards that are interesting here. Time Warden, 4 mana, 3/5 Battlecry until the end of your next turn. Dragons you summon gain Taunt and Divine Shield. So this means the turn you play it or the following turn. There are also a card that lets you discover dragons, and with Manethor summons a 5/5 Drake with Taunt, and a big Rushy dragon. None of them are all that exciting to me, but they're interesting. If you were a dragon gamer, you can dragon game.
Time Warden is kind of disgusting with Onyxia, isn't it?
Oh. Yeah. All the whelps gain Taunt and Divine Shield, huh?
Yeah. Either Onyxia for that matter. Right? Even like Broodmother is not bad because she's going to summon a whole bunch of taunts to fill up your board, or a whole bunch of Divine Shield taunts to fill up your board at the end of the turn.
Yeah. And Flight of the Bronze, it's worth noting. 1 mana discover a dragon, Manethor 7, summon a 5/5 Drake with Taunt. If you play this in turn 7 or later, it's 1 mana, get a thing and a 5/5 with Taunt.
Yeah.
Pretty good deal.
To me, that looks like the strongest card here. Just a glance to me. I haven't really dived into these cards much, but that one seems strong. I think or maybe we're bringing back Kazakhstan. I don't know how many times we're going to try that again.
You could.
That would be a pretty natural fit if that ever works.
Yeah, I mean, you could play both of those on the same turn after turn 7. Time Warden, then you discover a dragon, get a 5/5 taunt with Divine Shield. I mean, we played Draconic Studies for 2 years in Priest. So, I mean, this isn't quite Draconic Studies, but if the dragons are good, right? Especially if the dragon pool stays smallish so you know what you're going to get, then, this I mean, especially after rotation, because a fair number of those dragons are going to go after rotation. This could be potentially something worth looking at if you know what you're going to get out of it.
Yep. And then we also have a different kind of aggressive Paladin package here. These are Blood Elves, not what you normally see from Paladin. They are Holy Warriors, but in a different relationship with the light. This one is more about harnessing the power of blood, and they do a lot of self-damagey things. We got Sanguine Soldier, 1 mana, 2/1 Divine Shield, Battlecry, deal 2 damage to your hero. We got Seal of Blood, 3 mana, Holy Spell, give a minion +3/+3 in Divine Shield, deal 3 damage to your hero. Blood Crusader, 6 mana 5/5, Battlecry, your next Paladin minion this turn costs health instead of mana. Feast and Famine, 1 mana, give your hero +3 attack and Mana Thirst 4 and Lifesteal. So your hero gains attack and lifesteal. Something new for Paladin. We've seen it already in Demon Hunter. And then Blood Matriarch Liadrin kind of ties it in all together. She was a day 1 card, but it's important to mention her again. 2 mana 3/2, Legendary. After you summon a minion with less attack than this, give it Divine Shield and Rush. So, a 1 mana 2/1 Divine Shield. 3 mana spell that gives a minion +3/+3 in Divine Shield. Liadrin is kind of like a magic carpet on steroids. You can stick her, then she works. She's going to be pretty tough to build a board against. And I don't know. My dream is to finally have a Katori Lightblade deck. For those that don't remember what that card does, I'm gonna remind everyone about Katori Lightblade. That is a 2 mana 2/3 legendary from Voyage, where whenever you play a holy spell on it, it copies it to another minion. And we have Seal of Blood as well as 4 Quell the Loss, which is 2 mana, give a friendly minion +3 attack permanently, and give your hero +2 attack this turn in the same set. That's pretty juicy, right?
That is very especially that card for Kel'Thuzad.
Yes.
That with Katori sounds strong. That's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
10.
And
That's
if
a
you're doing it, and if
Pyroblast.
you're doing it past turn 4, you have 1 extra mana. Throw in Feast and Famine. Get yourself 3 more attack and Lifesteal.
Yeah. That would be attack for 7, gain 7, and share +6 attack amongst my minions.
Yeah. Now you're doing Demon Hunter things. Yeah.
Yeah. Seems pretty good. And, yeah, Liadrin with all of these buffs, I would be pretty excited about.
Plus, we still have Bannerman. We still have Cariel, Hero Power. Like, we have other ways to buff things in hand, too.
Yeah.
So,
Though it's Carriel Hero Power on Liadrin is not what I want to do. I want to move a lot faster than that. Like, we're going to play Carriel in that deck because it's a Paladin deck. But I would like for Liadrin to be relevant earlier.
yeah. Yeah. And Blood Crusader's interesting because, like, what Paladin minion are you trying to play? That's the important thing on that card. That it's a Paladin minion. So it's not like Mr. Smite or Denathrius or whatever, right? Like it's specifically, so it's not going to let you like brand Denathrius and Paladin, thankfully. But like, what Paladin minions are you playing? I mean, Ragnaros Lightlord is the one that came to mind. But I mean, that's kind of, it's kind of ending up like breaking even per se. And that doesn't seem particularly exciting. I don't think Tyrion's really worth it.
That's 14 power and stats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not Tyrion, because then my immovable object breaks.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
At least until rotation.
I was thinking Templar Captain.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
reminder for people, again, Templar Captain. For those of you that weren't playing when Cenarian Ward was around, it's an 8 mana 8/8 with Rush, and after it attacks, it summons a 5/5 taunt. So, if it's turn 6, you play a 5/5, an 8/8 Rush, and a 5/5 with taunt. That's very similar to a smokescreen for a Stoneborn General. I would not be unhappy with that. And I would be unhappy to face that, I think, most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if we're going for deep cuts, Brasswing's an option, too. Depending on what kind of board you're facing.
Also, Leviathan, of course. Probably the individually strongest card of those. Cheating that out sounds strong.
Yeah.
And even if it's just a turn faster with a free 5/5, like, okay. That's fine. We'll do that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't normally play a lot of Paladin. For those of you that are familiar with McBanterFace's stream, he also not a huge Paladin fan overall. But I can say specifically the lower to the ground aggressive Paladin cards here, they have me intrigued. The dragon stuff, it feels like I'm curious about it, but not necessarily excited. The low-cost Paladin stuff excites me. I'm really curious about it. I wonder if we can, like, justify squeezing in a buffet biggin into this shell. So you can end up with a buffet biggin, a sinful sous chef doing some work or something like that.
You start getting some, like, pre-nerf conviction feelings about some of these cards.
If we kill people that effectively, I'll be thrilled.
Yeah, the 2-mana buff seems like that's the standout for me, I think.
Yeah.
So the highest compliment I can pay to these cards is that I am interested in trying these.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah. Though I will point out, you had fun and won games with buff Paladin.
I did, and now I can buff my minions even more. Maybe throw in a Katori. I'm
there
starting
you
to
go.
believe.
Just throw it in. Just a casual Katori Lightblade. All right.
Yeah, just a dash of Katori.
2 more classes to go. We're making good time here. So we have a Death Rattle Shaman theme that is funky and cool and whatever. So it's all about granted death rattles from what we can see with Shaman right now. So we'll start with Scourge Troll so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Scourge Troll, 1 mana, 1/3, undead, epic. Death rattles given to this minion trigger twice. So what gives a death rattle? Deathweaver Aura. 2 mana, shadow spell, give a minion death rattle, summon 2 3/2 zombies, overload 1. So if you played Scourge Troll on 1 and it lived, and then you Deathweaver Aura'd it on 2, and then you traded with it, you would have 4 3/2 zombies, which is a lot for the second turn of the game. Now your opponent would have to have something to trade into, but if they did, you would have 4 3/2 zombies on the second turn of the game. I'm going to call that decent.
Yeah. Imagine your opponent's going first. They play that card. You don't have a 1-drop, and they play Deathweaver Aura on 2. You can't really play a minion that has 3 attack, because if they trade into it, you're going to die with a lot of decks. So that's a pretty scary opener, I think.
Yeah.
Also, Schooling is a card.
Yep. Yeah,
so,
with the granted death rattles.
You just have a bunch of rushing 1-attack minion, one health minions that all spit out 2 3/2 zombies when they die. That's kind of scary.
Luckily, it only gives it to 1 minion, but yes.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's only 1, yeah. But even so, that's still 3 mana. Get a 3/2. Get 2 3/2s. That's pretty good.
It's okay and solid. And there's also another explicit one. Unliving Champion, 3 mana, 3/2 undead. Battlecry: if a friendly undead died after your last turn, summon 2 3/2 zombies. This is 3 bodies. I believe the overload on Deathweaver Aura is very intentional, because they don't want you curving Scourge Troll, Deathweaver Aura, Unliving Champion. But also, if I'm facing down a Scourge Troll with the Aura on it, I am not playing a minion. I'm going to take 1 damage the following turn until I can deal with it. Because that's the thing about these granted death rattles and stats. If you're not killing people from hand, and you don't have agency over when these things pop, you can kind of make the stats crazy, because your opponent just gets to decide when they happen. And I think it's an interesting counterplay. There's a couple other cards here. Shadow Suffusion, 3 mana, give your minions death rattle, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. Yes, it can go face. Yes, it can go face. And Rotgill, 5 mana, 3/6, undead Murloc, double tagged. Battlecry, give your other minions death rattle, give your minions +1/+1. So basically, each of your minions becomes a little buffer when it dies. So if you have 5 1/1s in play, the first one dies, then you have 4 2/2s. Then the second one died, then you have 3 3/3s. Then one dies, and you have 2 4/4s. So the video example that was shown, you bump in little minions into a taunt, and then you go face for a lot. I think it's going to be difficult to work. I think Rotgill looks a lot cooler than it's going to be in practice, because you're going to play it on a wide board, and then they're all going to die at once, or your opponent's not going to let you trade with anything. I think that's kind of where it lands. But I am seeing a shell of a Bloodlust deck here. That's really hard to get off the board, and then they kill you. That's what I'm hoping for here.
I'm just waiting for the first Trolled-in video that has somebody try to play a spammy Arcanist against a Rotgill board, and just have it just completely fall on its face.
That will be very funny. Yeah. I'm also very excited to pair all of these endless board spam refill cards and board buff cards with my friend Glug. Glug the Gulper. Glug gonna get big.
that wasn't where I thought you were going with that, but that makes sense.
What were you thinking,
I
Denathrius?
thought we were pairing it with Denathrius, yeah.
You don't have to choose, but
Why
Glug
not
is more
both?
fun. Glug is more fun.
Yeah.
Sure. Also worth noting that both of the spells, Shadow Suffusion and Deathweaver Aura, will come out of School Teacher.
Yes.
So Brand School Teacher, Shadow Suffusion will be a thing at some point, I'm sure, and that's going to be a fair amount of damage.
Yeah, that's a fireball per minion. Seems okay. Yep. And these cards just look kind of fun. Like I don't know how it's gonna work, but it just looks like I'm making all of my minions like really hard to get rid of. It just looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun for all that stuff to happen. It feels like a Battlegrounds tribe. Just like when stuff dies, other stuff happens. Yeah. I'm curious about it.
I was thinking the same thing, specifically with Rotgill. It just felt like a Battlegrounds card to me, like a card that you'd play in the early game there, and it would be pretty good. I don't know how it'll be in Standard, but I got that vibe.
Yeah. If you could guarantee a lot of minion combat with full boards, Rotgill would be crazy. I'm not sure that you can, and I am sure that after talking about this set so far, I envision seeing a lot of silence. If there is silence available, I'm glad they nerfed Starfish because that would be everywhere. And so far, I will say, if you are currently a Naga Priest player, I think you will be fine in the first day of this expansion because that deck looks pretty crazy against all this stuff that we've seen so far. And you get to play Shard of the Naru. So
yeah, just don't cut that from your deck is what some people have been doing. Put that back in your deck.
Yes. And also play Naga Priest, which we've been begging people to do this expansion. They probably won't do, so they probably won't do it in the next expansion. But I will continue to make that recommendation.
I tried on stream the other night, and then I got mass polymorphed by a Thief Rogue, and that was the end of the stream. So
that is not Naga Priest's fault. Okay. So, last class here. Discard Warlock. But kind of a little bit different. We do have some things that are very similar. So, Walking Dead, 3 mana, 2/5, Taunt. If you discard this minion, summon it. That's our Silverware Golem. We have Soul Barrage, 5 mana. When you play or discard this, deal 6 damage randomly split among all enemies. That is our Fist of Jaraxxus. By the way, as a fun little tangent, can either of you name the card released in Nathria that has discard synergy?
Oh, Tome Tampering?
No. There is a card that has an effect when you discard it that's in Standard right now.
Oh.
Are you sure?
I'm looking at it. It's in the most recently released Standard set. Suffocating Shadows. 3 mana shadow spell. When you play or discard this, destroy a random enemy minion.
Yeah,
that exists.
Yeah. So I actually see that card semi-frequently. I have never once seen it discarded, but it gets played off School Teacher to kill a big minion sometimes.
It's a deadly shot.
What warlocks are playing School Teacher?
It was like the 40 curse warlock deck type of things.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Big Impin'?
Yes. Actually, yeah, I think I've done that at some point.
Yes.
Of course.
So, that was in Nathria. That's not in this set, but that's already in Standard. I forgot until today when I looked through the old sets.
How did that not make it into Reno Quest Warlock when I played that the other night?
Because it's a deadly shot.
I played multiple arson accusations and I never found that card off of anything. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Strange times in which we live.
Yes. We did get some more, and remember as well, in core, there's High Priestess Jeklik, which is a 4 mana 3/5 taunt that when you discard it, you get 2 copies added back to your hand. So we're touching on all the notes that we had back in Ungoro discard, except for no Lakari Sacrifice. Sorry, Steve. So it's...
Sorry, not sorry.
But I don't know if this is enough, but we do have a couple other cards that are interesting here. We have Savage, was it Imerjar?
That's
Imerjar? Savage Imerjar. I went through how to pronounce this on the last podcast that I did, and I still messed up this time. It's a 5-mana 7/7 rush battlecry, discard 2 cards. Big cost, no charge. It's big. It's a big card. We've got Scourge Supplies, 3 mana, draw 3 cards, choose one of those to discard. I like that card a lot. Very good with Rod. Very good with Rod. And then we have Amorphous Slime, which is technically a discard card, but it reminds me more of Skull of the Minari. 5 mana, 5/3, Battlecry, discard a random undead, Death Rattle, summon a copy of it. So if we only have 1 large undead in hand, or 2, or whatever, if you discard an Abominable Lieutenant on turn 6, and then play Grimoire, you have a turn 6 Abominable Lieutenant. Pretty solid. I am less convinced about full-on discard is all we're doing. I am not super convinced on that. Scourge Supplies, I think, is just a good card. I think it is just a solid card that you can play. It's an AI with upside, even if you're not discarding a Discard Matters card.
I mean, we play Backfire. This can't be that much worse than Backfire.
I mean, it can be.
I mean, yeah, I think it could be a lot worse, but Backfire was an insanely good card.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
that's like one of the best cards that they printed. So if it's not as good as that, that's okay, right? But I mean, you know, draw 3. Even if you're discarding one, even if you don't have discard synergy, like sometimes you just play a draw 3 and burn a card, you know, and you just kind of live with that. So if you're choosing what you're going to discard, it's not terrible.
Backfire was big because of the Demon Seed synergy too, which we don't have here.
Yeah.
But I do like Scourge Supplies. So yeah, I'm certain the mini set as well will have more discard support. The only time I can ever remember Discard Warlock super working in Standard was when it wasn't Discard Warlock, but when it was Hand of Gul'dan.
Right.
Like, Hand of Gul'dan along with Nightshade Matron, you knew what you were discarding, you built around it, you drew a bunch of cards, and it was solid. We don't have anything like that here. These cards aren't bad, but if you're ever paying the discard payoffs on rate, you're unhappy, and a 5-mana 7/7 rush, it's not a bad card, but the cost is enormous. So, we're not in a world where a 5-mana 7/7 rush is something that's worth going out of your way for that much of discarding 2 cards. I don't know. I am less enthused
I guess
about these.
If you got it working with the Amorphous Slime, then you're getting a 5/3 and a 7/7. If your hand is often empty, the discard doesn't matter. But these are not cards that you can really dump easily. You know, I mean, I could see like the 5-mana 7/7 at the top end of a zoo deck, right? Because like if your hand's empty, who cares? The same way that we used to play Doomguard.
Yeah, but Doomguard hit him in the face and killed him.
Yeah, and Tiny Knight of Evil's in core. I mean, that's not exciting, but it's a thing.
Sorry, what card?
Tiny
Knight of Evil. Dude, it's okay. It's a 2. You weren't playing back then. It's a 2-mana 3/2. Yeah. Whenever you discard a card, it gets permanent +1/+1.
Yeah,
right.
Like I said, it's not exciting, but it's something. So there's some, and then the 4-mana big butt, discard your lowest cost card or whatever it is.
Lakari Fellhound.
Yeah, that guy. That's in standards. That's in core also.
Yeah, it's worth noting. The payoff of getting more cards is so important, which is why Malchezaar Zemp and Hand of Gul'dan have been the 2 biggest discard payoffs that we've seen. Just cheating stats one time is okay, but it's not enough. So I'm not sure if we're going to see like a competitive deck built around this, because when your hand is empty, discard synergy doesn't matter, because then you're limited by card quantity, not by mana. Yeah. So you have to cheat a lot of mana very quickly. Amorphous Slime I am very curious about, because it does not look like it goes in a spam your hand discard deck. It looks like that you're going to build a deck with purpose around it. And I'm not sure what undead we're going to discard with it. I floated the idea of Flesh Behemoth in my other show. And Flesh Behemoth it's a 4/8 taunt with Death Rattle, draw another undead and summon a copy of it. You can get a lot of Flesh Behemoths in a row. I can see something happening there.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out what tome tampering's going to do. And I haven't figured it out yet. And I don't think this stuff is it. Like, I don't really want... Like, do we want, like, like 1-mana Soul Barrages in our deck? I mean, it's damage. Is that the damage we want, or is that the damage we deserve?
Does it have to be one of those?
No.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing these decks on day one. And I don't anticipate a lot of discard after that, but it's possible the other cards that we see in Warlock make this more viable. But I don't think this stuff goes in Imp Warlock. Like, I'm going to keep on playing Curses, I think.
Yeah, no. I mean, you don't want... I mean, certainly Soul Barrage, like, you don't want another Shadow Spell getting in the way of Abyssal Wave anyway.
Yeah. And then there are a lot of neutrals. We're not going to talk about most of them. The only one, in fact, that we are going to talk about is Bone Lord Frostwhisper. 6 mana, 6/6, undead, legendary, Death Rattle. For the rest of the game, your first card each turn costs 0. You die in 3 turns. There's a lot here. There's a lot going on here. So, it's not first minion, it's not first spell, it's just first card. But it is a Death Rattle. You don't necessarily get to dictate when this happens. I'm pretty sure it is after you press the end turn button 3 times after this dies. If you play a spell or anything to kill this on your turn, that was your first card, so you don't get anything that costs 0 that turn. You kind of have to trade it off. So if your opponent doesn't give you anything to trade this into, it's just 6/6. But man, that text is powerful. Any
really
initial
cool
thoughts?
card.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Anytime I see something with Death Rattle, I'll always get a little bit skeptical because it is slow and it's somewhat out of your control when that procs or if that procs. But if there's not a ton of silence around, then I'm sure there's going to be something cool with it. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm excited to try and find out because, yeah, it's a cool card.
Yeah. And there is some inherent risk here because, you know, Vol'jin's still in Standard. There's another card that swaps with a card in a neutral that swaps with a card in your opponent's deck. If they get lucky, then, you know, that's something that could bring that out before you're ready for it. So there's a little bit of risk there. There's some interesting counterplays, again, to set up Trollden videos. But those aren't going to happen that often. I mean, if we're playing cards that counter this, then the meta's gone in a very, very weird direction. I just hope that whatever the answer is something slightly more interesting than I get to play Bran with Denathrius outside of Druid. Because that seems to be the answer to a lot of these deck building challenges a lot of the time, and I would really love for it to be something a little bit more creative than that when we do see it. And I imagine that we're probably going to see it a lot on day one. Like, by the time that I've done, opening my packs about 8 p.m. Eastern, like 6 hours after the set's gone live, like, that's when everybody will figure it out. I'm going to die to it like 3 times in a row.
Yeah. I don't know. I really like the tension in play here where you kind of have to set it up and then you kind of have this tight window to pull it off and you get this advantage into doing so, that it's a different kind of way for... It sets up games ending faster, but this is never the thing that kills you. So I like that where we started the show with the Denathrius problem of it's always the thing that kills you. And again, problem in air quotes. This is the getaway driver, but it's not the one committing the crime. And so I like the opportunity that it provides for all sorts of wacky stuff to actually be a game ender, even though it is all aided and abetted by Frostwhisper. Because you'll see some variety in how it works, if it works at all, which I'm not sure it does.
It will be amusing to see people randomly evolve or get devolved into this.
Yes.
With Shaman, and then immediately freak out about dying in 3 turns. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I wonder, a deck that isn't built for it, I wonder how much advantage they can take of it.
Probably not very much.
My guess would be not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Like if you're not, because you also get to, most of the time you get to choose when you play this. So you're not playing this unless you have everything you need, right? So like if you just like end up like you've got a Famish Fool that you use a Muck Pools and you end up with a Bone Lord Frost Whisper, that's not something you're going to be excited about. You're going to be terrified.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, lads, it's been 2 hours, and we made it through a whole bunch of cards. I think I'm going to take this opportunity to thank many folks. You can check out our thanks section on the website at coinconcede.com, where you can find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doge Crash Cat, B Squatch, David P, Fade to Black, Wild Lou, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, Lucky, and Ponius. And CoinConcedes, well, thank you very much to, we had a couple of subs. Thank you very much, Nate Dogg and Donkey, for the Prime subs during the show. Thank you very much, Donkey, for the raid. And I have a few CoinConcedes. Leaf, thank you in our Discord for being a computer detective. Divock was having problems with some performance issues, and it was narrowed down with her help to CPU throttling due to an improperly seated cooler. So, Leaf, thank you very much for your computer detective skills. Digger, congratulations on Legend. We congratulated him on some progress with Curse Imp Warlock and D5 last time, but he got to Legend. I'm late on that. I'm also late on Slizzle466, who has decided to take the opportunity to retire from streaming. He had to take some time off and then decided, you know what, I'm just going to call it. So, Slizzle, thank you so much for the entertainment offered over the years. Matt at Arms, thank you for posting pictures of the Hades Death Mat, because I ordered one. And the Infinite Snap podcast, coincided them because I'm guesting on their show later tonight. So, thank you to all of them for finding the time. Australians, Americans, sometimes hard to coordinate, but Justin over there did a great job of helping out with that. CoinConcedes, Steve.
So I'm going to coin concede, first of all, to Edel. I hope you're having fun on your trip.
Yes.
To Sidisi for being somewhat kind to my rank and still, despite me making me play Boar Hunter and Prestor Hunter. But I did have a really good time. And I think people were surprised that I can actually play aggro decks and count out damage and end the game in a reasonable amount of time. So I got to show that that's a thing I could do. And then I immediately went back to Quest Priest for the next stream because, that was enough proactivity for a month. And I want to coin concede to Tito and Doc McButt. They had me on an episode of Bread and Butter that I don't believe is released yet, but it should be releasing soon, to talk about replays and why you should look at them and how you should look at them and how to learn from them to improve your play. So it was a pretty fun discussion. We also talked about Marvel Snap, but a very different probably than the conversation you're having, because we were talking about why we were not playing it anymore. So that's also in that episode if you're interested. But that'll be out probably pretty soon. So go listen to that.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
What about you, Banner?
I'll keep it brief. I will coin concede everyone in my community. I know I talked earlier about how I got started and all that, and I've still really not been in the Hearthstone community for all that long. So really appreciate all the support that I've been given, and I feel very, very welcomed. It's been a ton of fun. Makes my my Hearthstone enjoyment level go up as well. So thanks to everybody for that. I'll also coin concede to the both of you for having me here. This was also very fun. So yeah. Thank you both.
Thanks for coming on, man. It was a good time.
This was a lot of fun. Glad you could make it on, and this was great.
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh,
I like talking about Hearthstone.
Yeah.
I mean, you do it professionally.
It's true. Normally I'm talking with myself, though. So now I actually have some other people, at least with voices, that I can talk to, which is cool.
Responding directly. Weird, right?
It is.
Yeah, and no, you're not playing a game right now either. Very impressed at your focus.
Well, we don't know that.
I could have been the whole time. It's hard to say.
You responded too quickly. If you were playing a game, you would have waited till the rope and then responded all at once. I also have one final coin concede to Tito Santana, Doc McButt, and Storm Rage for they were in cahoots with my wife and organized a delivery of cookies. So thank you very much, gentlemen and wife, for helping to get me cookies. They were very tasty. Very kind of you. Appreciate it. And that's going to do it. So, until next week, keep calm and check out the other card reveals on the website, I guess. I feel like I can do better than that. We can do better, right? What are we keeping calm about? Do we have anything to keep calm about?
Oh, God. See, I let you do this, so I don't...
I know. I usually do this on the spot every time. So keep calm and check out twitch.tv/McBanterFace. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
You say it now. You say coin concede.
Oh, yep, coin concede. My bad.
It's a bit. We should have told you about this. All right. You can now stop your live recording. See, sometimes I remember to tell people, and other times I super don't. And it's kind of entertaining both ways.
Yeah.
I probably could have caught on to that. I just thought maybe it was the thing that you did. I was like,
I was wondering how you were going to extrapolate from what we were doing. I was curious. But, you know, the sign-off was rough. I'll fix it in post. It was no big deal.
Nobody will ever know.
Yeah. So, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. We're going to bring the stream down now.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you'll stay.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
We're having the stream, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that also ended.
Nope. We're still live right now for another
They're
30 seconds.
Buttons. Yeah.
Yes.
Woo.
But yep. Thank you very much, chat, for being there. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.